Welcome back to the Chemist Corner. Jesse Miller, a U of I chemist professor, joins us this morning. We're playing CSI this morning.
Yep, a little bit.
We're going to take a look at pen ink.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to show you basic concepts of chromatography. Now, chromatography is a technique that's used in a much more sophisticated manner to separate chemicals. So a lot of things that you might find, substances that you might find, are a mixture of chemicals, and they want to be able to separate them and tell what's in it.
Sure.
And so they use gas chromatography, liquid chromatography, and different techniques like this in order to separate out the chemicals and figure out what's in it. But it all works on the basic principle. This is thin layer chromatography, and the basic principle is that some compounds are more polar than others, which means that it has a charge on one side and the other, like, you know, poles of a magnet. Right. And if you use a medium like this, this paper has silica gel on it that's polar, and some things will stick to it, and some things won't stick as easily. Okay. So as the solvent, which in this case we're going to use methanol, moves up the paper, it brings whatever the substance is with it, and the sticky stuff stays down the bottom, and the stuff that's not quite as polar will move up. Okay. The column, and it'll separate. And so we're going to show this with ink. Now, this is more of like something Sherlock Holmes would do, because nowadays, you know, nobody writes ransom notes anymore. But if you say you were to write a ransom note, you know, you're ransoming one of Rob's things that you stole, and you wrote him a note, and they wanted to see who, you know, what pen, you know, and it was your pen or whatever else like that. You take the note, you dissolve it in some methanol, and then you would put a spot of it here, in our sample spot here, and then maybe take your suspect pens, like I have 3 black pens here, and put a dot here and a dot here and a dot here from the different pens. Okay, then they would put it in the methanol. Okay, we're going to get it in there. And as the methanol moves up here, it would separate, and each pen is kind of different. Now, if you got 2 of the exact same pen, it's going to be the same. But for the most part, you could tell whose pen was whose based on that. Now, I've already started some colorful pens over here just to show you how the ink separates on the different colors. Right. You know, and maybe this one I had going for a lot longer. You can see the blue separates into yellow and green, which you might suspect is that way, and the reds kind of have a yellow and a red component to it, and the oranges in the same way. The black actually is composed in this pen of purple and brown and some other colors, so it's kind of interesting. Now, as this moves up, as you can see now, it's starting to move up. It's going to start separating, and we'll be able to tell which pen was which. This is our suspect pen over here, and whichever one of these matches. You notice the number 2 doesn't move at all. No. So it's obviously not soluble in methanol. You'd have to use a different solvent in order to...
looks like number 3 might be the closest.
It does look like that, doesn't it? And as a matter of fact, I did one earlier so we could see it a little bit better, which you'll notice that number 1 has a lot of purple in it, and it separates out here. You got some green, and there's a whole spectrum of colors in number 1. But number 3 looks an awful lot like the sample pen. So we'd be able to say, okay, this is Ann's pen, and
Ann's the culprit.
She's the culprit, or at least a pen just like that.
It kind of makes that V shape at the top on both. Does that have anything to do with it as well?
That just has to do with, that actually has to do with the properties of the methanol, you know, the solvent front as it moves up. Okay. Kind of goes in a parabola because of surface tension and some other things, some physical properties of the solvent itself. Yeah, as it moves up, eventually it would separate even further and further and further into its various components, especially this pen here that has the different colors in it. The sample pen and pen 3 are pretty much just black. Okay. So that's thin layer chromatography, and like I said, other chromatography works basically the same way. You use a polar, some sort of column with a medium in it that would separate out the chemicals, and then it reads out in a detector, and you can tell what's in it based on that.
Very interesting. Jesse Miller, thanks for bringing this in today and demonstrating. If you want to watch it again, just go to IllinoisHomepage.net, click on The Morning Show and Chemist Corner. We'll be back right after this.